Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Mindswitch, our podcast. This is a place that we created together, right? So we can bring experiences and advice so people can learn from us, and we can learn from you as well with your feedbacks, so we can better our lives. And this is my guys. Nasser, introduce yourself.
Guys, to all our viewers, thank you ever so much for taking time. And I want to say welcome to our show, the Mindswitch Hours. Where I come from, sharing is caring, and we're all here to share with you. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Nasser. Edwin.
Yes. Welcome to Mindswitch Hour. My name is Edwin, and this is the hour that we try to influence you and inspire you to make a decision to change your mindset. So tune in.
Pops.
What's up, guys? My name is Johnson, and today we are here to promote the Mindset Hour. Our main objectives is to give you guys the empowerment that you need in order to fulfill certain things in your life. You know, certain things that we went through and that we wasn't influenced by, some of our elders. We are here to, introduce that to you, and hopefully you can take something from it and make you a better person.
That's a really good point.
Things that we didn't learn from our elders, now we're gonna, share with ourselves, innit? So, like you said, innit, we're here to kind of improve our minds, innit, to better ourselves, innit. And I know all of us, we come from the same place. We all come from Africa, innit? And growing up in Africa, you get challenges. There's good times and there's bad times. You go for everything, and then we came over here to London, where it's a completely different way of life, innit? Like, how do you lot think, growing up in Africa and then coming here, how do you lot think Africa prepared you for this place? Like, this new environment, Nasser, let me start with you.
Oh, God. That is a very, very interesting question, to be honest with you. And I think personally, if you look at it on the education-wise, Africa is a good foundation when it comes to education, because I'm telling you, when I came here, things that I used to study here, it's like I studied those things 2 years ago, back home.
Yeah.
And obviously, the education system there is a little bit strict, although the facilities are not that good, but the education is really, really good. So, to be honest with you, it's a good foundation. To be honest with you, and I can't be more than proud that I was born in Africa, and I've gone through that experience. So I think it prepared me, So it was a good thing for me, to be honest with you.
Johnson, did you find the same as well in Africa? Like the education system is like higher than here, but just less resources.
To be honest, it's similar, not the same as what Paulo was saying, Nasser was saying. Honestly, I went to private school when I was in Ghana, but I never really liked it. I never liked it because they cane you. I never liked it because you have to speak English. I never liked it for so many reasons. But as I said, as Nasser said, they teach you certain things 2 years advance. You know what I mean? So when I came here, I've already learned trigonometry back home, but it took me 2 years or so before I started learning trigonometry back in year 8 or so. So as you're saying, yeah, you're definitely right. The education system is totally different, from Ghana to obviously the UK, and you know what I mean.
So let me put this question out there: Is it
like here? Is it just better resources? And there is better teaching or more advanced teaching?
Better teaching back home, but more resources out here.
Did you find the same as well?
The thing that I would say is, when you come here, you notice, in Africa, that discipline is put into you in school. And that's something that you kind of notice over here is lacking. So you've got that discipline already. The only thing that you now need to do, you're kind of almost in a free world where you need to teach yourself how to focus. But because that discipline has already been put in you.
What do you mean by discipline though?
Because none of us like to be caned for no reason. Do you know what I mean? I could tell you stories when I got caned for no reason. Teacher is upset about something at home, and he comes in and he canes everyone. But at least it puts that discipline in you, so you know the difference between a classroom and a playground. Do you know what I mean? So when you're sitting in the classroom, you're steady, you're prepared, you're ready to learn. Whereas over here that playground is kind of still in the classroom, because that level of discipline and that level of fear that you have for a teacher is not really there. Do you know what I mean? So there are pros and cons, but I think it's just, for me, that was one of the things that I kind of noticed, that discipline is already put into you. So
I've known these guys for like nearly 15 years, innit? Some of us got kids, some of us don't. Like, and I put this question to Nasser one day. I said to him, like, would you like your kids to go for the same education you went like back home? So, like, for example, if you was caned back home and you were so strict, something that is not here, would you like your kids to go through that same level of system of education?
To be honest with you, I remember we had a conversation regarding this point. Personally, I won't put my child through that. Obviously, because as time goes on, I think the society has changed. People have become more aware of human rights and stuff like that. So, caning a young child just because you want to discipline him is regarded as abuse in some European countries.
Yeah, but you're not broken. You came out fine. So why not carry on the same system that you grew up in into your children?
Yes, obviously I wasn't. Yeah, obviously I was caned, but like I told you, things have changed. I think these days kids are more attracted into their games. So there's different ways of making sure they do the right thing. Like, for example, if I take away his game and say, you know what, I'm gonna take away your phone. You're not gonna play the phone today unless you do this. So there's different approaches of taking us. But if you compare that to my time back then, I remember they used to cane me my fingers just to write. Personally, if I write with my handwriting, you may think it's just been typed, because the way I write, like all the letters, level up. You understand? So there's different ways. Obviously, we never had things that the teachers would take from us just to make us that we do the right thing. So the society has changed. So that's and based on that reason, I wanted my child to go through that. To be honest with you.
Yeah, and like talking about the school system as well. Like, how was secondary school for you, Johnson? Like, in coming to this country, from going through education system back home to then coming here, how was that transition?
Yeah.
But I want to talk more mentally, like for your mindset. How did you kind of like get yourself psyched to go for that change?
You know, as I said before, I never really liked English when I was in school.
Yeah.
You get what I mean? So thinking back, it actually affected me, because I felt like, I'm not gonna go anywhere back in Ghana. I wasn't gonna go anywhere. So why should I learn somebody else's language? You know? But when I came here, I understood the reason why the teachers was telling me, yo, learn how to speak English, or learn how to do this, or learn, I understood. So initially when I came in, it was a bit of a struggle, because it was a thing where most of the kids knew how to speak the English, but I wasn't top notch. So then I had to learn everything, like literally things that I should have learned when I was like maybe like 5 years of age, I was starting to learn it.
And how did that make you feel though? How did you punish yourself for not having to learn it from back home? To be honest, punish yourself like king yourself. I mean, like, did you blame yourself for not learning? To be
honest, I felt like I was behind, because at the end of the day, everybody that I started with was the guys that was at school. They were all like, speaking well. I couldn't speak well, so then it's like I have to take like after school classes and stuff. So you could imagine, whilst everybody is going home, I'm now having to stay behind and then learn like a bit of like a grammar or something like that. You know what I mean? So it did affect me, because think about it, your friends will feel like, yo, like we all want to go home, why you have to stay behind? So as a child, it kind of play somehow in your mind. You know what I mean? Because then you start asking yourself like am I good enough? Like in terms of that aspect, because only the ones that wasn't smart enough were the ones that were staying behind and doing like after school classes, as they say. You know what I mean? So somehow it did play a bit of tricks on my mind, but then I understood that I was behind in terms of the language, so I had to catch up. So that's what made me like look past the fact that I have to stay behind and then learn a little bit more. So that's what I think it was really like. It was a bit, but at the end of the day, you have to do it. So
but you go through it, innit? You stayed after school and you learned what you needed to learn.
Oh yeah, I got laughed at for a couple of times, but I knew at the end of the day, there was a bigger picture in it. You know what I mean? And the bigger picture was to pick up and be able to stand on the same playing fields as the rest of the guys that was around. So in order for me to do that, I had to stay back for like an hour or so just to learn a little bit more, you know, just to better myself. So yeah, at the end of the day, it works anyway. So yeah.
Did you go for the same thing as Owen then? Actually, I'm going to ask you a different question. Let's say, for example, there's a guy.
I was just chipping though, but Edwin was a smart guy.
I know. That's what I said. Let me ask him a different question. That's what I said. I feel it deserves more than that. So let's say like a kid just come from Kenya. He's in a school, right? He don't speak a word of English in it, and he has to stay behind in it. So what are you telling him to make sure that he stays focused and he knows what he needs to do? How do you motivate that?
I think personally, just to kind of put it like the way I dealt with that, like I'm not some genius or anything, but I also understood that I was clever enough. Do you get what I mean? So me knowing that I was clever enough is like, okay, that's fine, you can think whatever you want, but my grades will tell you something different. So me knowing that, even if I'm a kid from Kenya, for instance, and I came in, I couldn't speak English, but I knew that my maths was sick. Wait till maths come. I'm gonna dump everyone. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, that's okay. If this is what I'm weak in, I'll work hard on the things that I know I can improve in. Obviously, English. If we were talking about English, for instance, English is a language that you have to learn. Maths is kind of generic. Everybody has to learn almost the same kind of maths. So that's why you could have people coming from other countries. They're good at maths, but when it comes to English, they're not that good at it. And that's fine. That's perfectly okay. Do you know what I mean? It's a language, and so far as you're in a country long enough, you will learn how to speak a language. Some people can write English better than they can speak it. So that's a perfect example. In Africa or in Ghana, for instance, we get taught how to speak and write proper English. And then you come here and you're like, hold on, even the teacher doesn't speak that kind of English that we got taught. So my written English would be far better than my spoken English. If I put that in front of the teacher, they're not going to know
how you speak, how well you
who
speak.
wrote that. Because they're going to think, oh, that's very good English, but until they hear me speak, they go, oh, okay, that's interesting. But I think that's the pros and cons, and I think in most African countries, we get taught how to speak and write English in school anyway. So I think from a child coming in, find if you know what you're really good at whilst you're in school, pay attention to that and make sure that you really do well in that. And then the things that, like, you know, things that you're not so good at, just focus on trying to learn that. Like as Johnson said, if that means you staying behind at school, or you doing some extra classes at home, or reading books and whatever else, do that. But it's a progressive thing, so you shouldn't beat yourself up too much over it.
Let's dive deep more into the challenges you faced in school, because we spend a lot of time in school, innit? So I want to know, like, what is it that you guys look back and think, wow, that was tough? Not just the language, because obviously language is something else completely different, innit? Some of you guys were learning English from back home, but like, what is some of the things that you kind of thought, like, you found the toughest during the school years?
So Paul, that is a very, very interesting question. Personally, what I found challenge when I came to the education here, just the way how kids used to play. Kids used to play this play fighting thing where they rush one another and they fight and run. That I thought that really, really crazy, because I remember one day at school and I had a few kids, they come and rush me and start boxing me. I took that really serious. I took that very, very personal. The fact that even I had to beat up someone and I got excluded from school. Jeez. And I can tell you the experience going back home.
We were all there. Mr. Phillips.
I can tell you going back to an African man that just brought his child from Africa and to know that he's expelled from school. My dad went crazy. He said, I told you he's in the capital, should stay at home. I told you we made a big mistake to bring him here. I told you, they're gonna kill him.
How did that have an effect on you though?
To be honest with you, it didn't really affect me, because obviously the things that I was studying here, I'd studied those things like a year ago back home. So education wise it didn't, but in terms of fitting into school, and also the thing of the accent, the kids here, they were just, you know, I could understand English, but they speak very fast.
Why did you feel the need to fight though? Why didn't you just say, you know what guys, I'm not on that right now?
because obviously, like, to me, it's a new experience. I've never back home. We don't really play. We don't play like that, kids. We don't play kids that come and rush one another. So it's a new experience to me. I've never experienced it to me. So it's just a new thing to me. So obviously, I felt like I had to defend myself. This is not one kid or two kids. It's a bunch of kids just punching me. You know, so I feel like I had to defend myself. You know.
Yeah, you know what it is also like is with African parents here, because they didn't grow up here. Like the way of schooling in Africa and the way of schooling is different in terms of like how kids react to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like, so as Nasser is saying, all the play fighting and stuff. In Africa, you get whooped by the teacher for doing that. Do you know what I mean? So when you've come here, that's a whole new behavior to you, and especially like if you're coming from a place where you've been taught to fight back, to you, that mindset is like, you're like, whoa, like what's going on here? Is this a proper fight? Is he joking? You don't know how to react to that. So also depending on your character, like it's very like you might look at that very differently, and that's stuff that your parents don't understand. Like exclusion from school, your parents will be like, whoa, my child is getting excluded. Like, yo, I brought you here to come and become somebody, and you're getting excluded. But this time, your parents don't even know. You're going to school, you're having to deal with other kids who have issues at home, and they're bringing their issues to school. Do you know what I mean? So you're going to school having to deal with these type of people. Your parents don't even know that, and you can't even they wouldn't even know what that means when you try to explain that to them. So you know, for us, that's some of the challenges that we were facing. I wasn't a fighter in school, but it's there. Do you know what I mean? And you cannot, you feel these things, and it's one of those things where we all had to adapt to that. Do you know what I mean? I can think of times when these two have had a fight. Do you know what I mean? Me and you are probably a bit calmer than these two. So exactly.
Live wire.
So me and you probably dealt with things a little bit different. Do you know what I mean? So. Yeah,
I think
that's interesting.
To be honest, going back on what Eddy was saying, I think that also stemmed from like bullying. You know what I mean? You know, because when you come in, you have an accent. You can't speak well. You look a certain way. You know, the way people dress here is totally different from in Africa. But if I get me some shoes here, I'm fine in here. It's new. You know what I mean? But here you have to be Nike, Adidas. My dad ain't gonna buy you like no Adidas or Nike City, you get me? So I just gotta go to Primark and then purchase, you know, some brand new shoes. In Africa you probably get like second hand, but it's new, you know what I mean? So people look at that and then pick on that, you know, and it's like you have to always defend yourself. There are several times it's like I remember my first pair of shoes, it was still cat beat, bruv, you get me? Yeah, still cat beat, I used to go to school with bruv. But to my dad, it was like, yo, I bought you a brand new shoes. This is now school.
No, but in terms of both of you touched on good topics. Like, you touched on the topic of like your parents understanding what you go through in school. You touched on the topic of bullying in school. But I'm gonna go back to the bullying first, because I think that's really important. How do African parents deal with their kids being bullied at school? Like, let's say for example the topics of language, for example, and not being able to keep up with the latest trends of trainers. Like, how do they deal with it? If you go to your mom and say, "Oh, Lord, they're cussing me about my trainers, mom." How?
To be honest, she would have probably looked and be like, "Listen, like, don't pay no mind to it." She don't know what bullying is, because most likely they didn't grow up like that. You know, in Africa everybody's like together like that. You know what I mean? And people don't watch what you're wearing, or people don't pick on you because of this or that. You know what I mean? So she couldn't really give me any advice. I have to then realize, listen, this is the situation that I'm in. How do I get myself out of this situation? You know, so it's like you have to grow up on your own, really. Like,
Talk about that though. How do you realize that, and how do you grow up on your own? How do you get?
To be honest, you just, you know, if you're not careful, that's when people join certain gangs, or that's why people want to, you know, mingle with certain groups, because these type of groups are not getting picked on. You get what I mean? So in this case, I was lucky, like growing up in like maybe like, you know, South London or so. I had people that I was around around school. So you guys, we all live around the same area. You know, we went to the same school. So it makes more sense if I'm getting picked on to handle with you guys because we come from the same neighborhood. You know what I mean? If something is happening to me, I know for a fact you guys will step in and then back man up. You know, equally, that's what I will have to do. So then we form a group. In our head, it's a thing where like, okay, we just hanging together because I know if these guys pick on me, you guys will help me out. So that's how I feel like, you know, at that point in time, I have to make sure I join like, you know, some sort of like a group. I won't say a gang, but like a group.
It's a comfort thing. So you find other people who you can relate to, who are in the same position as you, and I think that's why us four here are friends, because we came in around the same age, we were in the same school, we would have been facing the same kind of things, to the point even where, you know, we can come across other Africans that were born here, and they'll kind of like separate themselves a little bit just because they were not born in Africa. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's quite interesting how human beings work in general. Do you get me? You're finding, but I think for me personally also, I kind of want to understand something from your point, Paulo, because I think one of the things also is there are a lot of African kids that are brought over. Either, you know, their parents send them here to come and live with their uncle, to come and live with a family member, but their parents themselves are not here. And I think some of us, like, you know, even we had our parents at home, but we were having to think like it was just us. But I think for you, that was your case. So how did you deal with that?
I think it was just it was tough, innit? It was tough not being able to have my mum and dad at home, innit? I always thought, okay, like I'm coming into this country and I don't know anybody. I don't know the person I'm going to be living with. So for me, before I even came, I've already had secluded myself. I already thought, you know what, I don't know these people, so I'm just going to do me. That's why I used to go out of the house and just travel for hours by myself to try and kind of like find who I am again, because I have no family really, even though she's my sister, but I've never met her. And obviously I love her to bits now, we're very close. But at the time, like I was young, I didn't understand it, and then my dad just dropped me here and then that was it for me. So like I kind of had to find myself again, and I'm still going through the same process, but just one of them things, you just go through it. You learn as you go, innit? You learn.
Just to add a little bit of something that Mr. Edmund just asked. Obviously, that must be a very, very challenging time for you as a child. Did you, obviously, personally, I want to say, I'm sure I was your friend, but I didn't really know that you were going through that, because I think you handled it really good as a child. But did you seek any sort of like support, like youth centers where you had to go and speak to someone to help you so that you can handle that?
No. The thing is, like when you're young, unless someone approaches you and says, let's have a conversation, you won't, like most of the times you won't say anything. You basically just go through it. Like, and I didn't have that. No one came to me and says, like, how you doing? But how you really doing? Like tell me everything. No one came to ask me that. So I basically just found other avenues to kind of like occupy myself from thinking of what I'm really thinking about, because I had no other way of getting it out. So that means drugs, that means going out to nightclubs, that means sleeping with different women, loads of different women. Do you know what I mean? So it's that occupied my time to stopping me from thinking like, what am I doing?
I'll make a point on that, and I think this is something that, like, generally parents, you know, we're Africans, so I can only speak for African parents, but I feel like African parents get these type of things wrong, because African parents, from what I've understand, like I've experienced, they don't look into the psychology of things. It's based, everything is based on what they see. So if their child wakes up in the morning and their child is physically fine and okay, they just assume everything is okay. But you know, I'm hoping that, you know, for us, we're talking about something that happened a few years, like some years ago, and I'm hoping that African parents have wisened up now. But for those African parents who have just come here, their children are like first generation, this is something that you need to pay attention to, because in this country, it's not, you know, that community thing is not there like in Africa. You know what I mean? So when you're bringing your children here, make sure you know what's going on in their lives. You can't assume that because they're in this country, everything is fine and you can just go to work and work 3 jobs.
So if I was one of those parents, I would then ask you, how do I do that? How do I make sure I
engage with your kids? Don't from when you bring them here and they start school, don't just start thinking to yourself, oh, peace of mind. Do you get me? Make sure you know what they're doing, because yes, they're not going to tell you stuff, but as teenagers, especially teenagers, can see what their parents are going through. Do you get me? And it's up to you to make that clear to them, because this is how you bring up, like, something that used to surprise me is how are you African but you're in a gang? Wait, I came from Africa, we're not taught like that. This guy just came here 2 years ago, he's already gang banging. How is that even possible? Why is that happening? And it's because of things like that. Do you get me? Their parents have brought them here, they've left them alone because they're thinking, as long as my child is going to school, everything is fine. You need to talk to your kids, you need to know what your kids are up to. Do you know what I mean? Don't assume that, they'll fend for themselves. Yeah, they'll be able to fend for themselves, but you don't know how they deal with things outside. And I've met people that are like very, they're cool at home. They're the most respectful kids at home. But outside of their houses, the things that they get up to, it's some next level.
So saying that, I would say that's even my kind of life, innit? You know what I mean? Because bear in mind, when I came, my mom was working, my dad was working. Yeah, my dad was doing 9 shifts. Yeah, my mom works. She'll finish work get home about 10 o'clock. So when I get home, it's me and my brothers in there, me and my little sister. We choose to do whatever we want. I could have chosen to be a gangbanger, I could have chosen to do whatever I wanted, but as we say, sometimes it's the connection as well parents have with their kids. I won't say like, I had a great connection with my dad in it, because it was a thing, back in Africa, it's like, oh, you're a man. So like, you have that thing in your head where they're always telling you, oh, you're a man, so deal with it. You know what I mean? They don't see you to be like maybe a little guy and that you're going through stages in life. They just say, oh, as long as you're a man, like, deal with it. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes when you tell a child that, they don't know who to deal with. They don't know who to go to for advice or whatever. So they end up with people that haven't got fathers or parents at home. And that's the people that they can connect with more. So then they go around these people, and these people could lead your children into places that they're not supposed to go. So in this case, I could have chosen to, the guys in the neighborhood, I could have chosen to hang around with them and then got myself into trouble. But knowing that I came from Africa and there was discipline, I never disrespected the situation at home. I never disrespected that. But equally, I could have chosen to be a different type of person than the type of person I was then. Because during that time, I had plenty of time to do whatever I wanted to do, and my parents wouldn't have known, because I had one character at home and a different character when I came outside. You know what I mean? I'm the type of person, you come to my house and you find so many bags, and as a parent, you should ask yourself, hey, how did you get these bags? But it was a thing where like, Poppy, it was a lot of people, so maybe, but then you don't.
I think the point you just made there is important. So make sure you ask questions. Like, don't just ask questions in the sense of, I'm the parent, you're the child, you have to answer. Ask questions in a more engaging way. One of the things that my parents did with me, they made sure that they always called me, where are you? Where are you? If I'm not at home by a certain time, where are you? And I think that where are you alone gets your kids out of trouble a lot more than you think. You get me? Some kids are a bit more stubborn. You know what I mean? You call them, they don't even pick up the phone. Like, you should be worried if your child starts doing that to you.
But if your child does that, if your parent does that as a kid, handling your homeboys, how does that make you feel? Because it's like your dad is always calling you, and your friends will see that and you start.
I reckon it's more important being a nuisance than just let your kids run wild. I rather my dad calling me to bug me about where I am than my dad not calling me at all. You get me?
I just wanted to pick up something. Everyone mentioned something really, really interesting about guns. And obviously, as at Mindswitch, we try to dig a little bit deeper. I'm gonna go back through your situation. To be honest with you, hearing your story and what you went through, it's a very, very hard story. How do you channel yourself from you being here and you feel like you're alone, you don't have parents? How do you channel yourself to stay that you don't join a gang? How do you maintain that mindset to say that you stay focused? To be honest with you, you've turned out to be a lovely parent,
Cheers, mate.
married, beautiful kids. I gotta give that respect to you. So obviously, how do you maintain that mindset at a young age to know that, you know what, this is the path I'm gonna choose, this path, whatever is going through in my mind emotionally. Give our viewer this understanding. How did you manage that?
I'll be completely honest, I've never managed it. What I done was, I went through all sorts of different stages in life. So when I said like I was trying to find myself, I've tried a lot of different things. And once I've tried, for example, drugs, let's say that, and like it gets to a point in my mind that I can say to myself, nah, this is not it. Do you know what I mean? And I go to maybe clubs, innit? Like bang out clubbing. And then it gets to a point in my mind and I think, no, this is not it. So maybe what I'm trying to say is, I think I reflected a lot. Because I had a lot of time. I used to live in a hostel at 16 after a while, innit? So I had a lot of time to sit down and think. But I had to force myself to think because there was always something on. I always had something that I could be doing at that specific moment. So I literally had to like switch off my phone or maybe not answer the door and just sit down and think, like, what am I doing, bro? And then through that, I kind of realized that the things I was doing, it wasn't that I was looking for. I was looking for something more. This is why I said I am still finding myself, because it's like a continuous journey. But the most important thing is you have to keep on reflecting if you're on the right path.
So do you think like having the right friends around you, it kind of influenced you 100%. To make sure that it channels you that? Because if sometimes they always say that your company we keep around, they have a big impact on you. Do you agree to that the kind of friends that you chose like us helps you to stay on the right path?
100%. I think is one of those things where like you get to know a lot of people in it, and then I'm not good at studying people. I just go with face value. I go with what people tell me in it. Like if you tell me, oh yeah, like no, don't worry man, I got you. I got you. I'm like, alright, cool, you got me in it, fine. But if you ain't got me, trust me, whenever you tell me that next time, I'm gonna say, nah, bro, you ain't got me because you said that last time. So I take people as face value. I'm never gonna prejudge someone and then make my, you know what I mean? Like I'm gonna go for what you say, and if you let me down, I'm gonna move on. So I think I build my friendships like that, and I hate judging people. I go with what they say. So my network of people is people that say, okay, cool, like we're gonna get this done. Like this is the like we've been through things, and I can see how they are, and I'm not prejudging. So that's how I build my circle of friends, innit? Like and it's true, it's important. The people you have around you is the people that kind of show you ways, innit?
To add to that though, how do you think that you dealt with peer pressure? Because peer pressure for me in this country was something that I've realized was a thing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In Africa, it wasn't, you know, like if you're bugging me too much, I'm gonna tell some uncle to come and slap you. Like it was that easy. You wouldn't bother me again. But like in this country, peer pressure was a big thing. Do you know what I mean? And once I learned what that word was, I noticed it all around me throughout the whole time I was in school. So how did you deal with that in particular, especially for somebody whose parents aren't around?
Yeah.
Do you get me? How did you deal with that?
It goes back to the same thing. I think peer pressure, like I said, I've never, if I saw something, if you say me, oh yeah, like here's a bag of weed, sell it, and you're pressuring me to sell it, you're saying sell it, I'm gonna say, alright, cool, I'm gonna do that. But at some point in my mind, after I've done that, right, I'm gonna reflect. Is this what I want to do? Do you know what I mean? So I go through the experience. Like this is what I've learned about me. I go through the experiences. But then I have to reflect if that experience is for me. It's the same like if you're alcoholic, for example. You're gonna drink. At some point when you're sober, you're gonna think, shit, I don't want to drink anymore. So I continuously keep on reflecting with everything I go through.
Paulo, it's interesting that you talk about reflection, but obviously, if you start doing something on a daily basis, you build up something what we call an habit. Obviously, let's say, for example, if you're smoking weed, you build up and then you become addicted. So you may be reflecting, but don't you think it could be a little bit hard for you to come off? Because that is something that is built into your subconscious now, because it has become an habit.
100%. Like addiction is a whole different game, innit? Like I think you have to take the good or the bad. If you get yourself into a big like problem because of your addiction, then you just have to seek help, innit?
And just one more thing,
Professional help.
before you move on, Paulo, you spoke about living into an hostel at a young age. Do you feel that the system in this country gives children responsibility at a young age? Because imagine you being a child, obviously you come here, you don't have your parents, and now you've got this space where you live yourself. You think that is a lot of responsibility for you, that you feel that the system that makes you grow up quicker than before you're physically mature?
Yeah, it does. Like sometimes some people in this country they get thrown into the deep end, innit? But the thing that I've learned about this is there is help. There is a lot of help, but it's never shown to you. It's never in your face. Like it's no one hands you a leaflet saying these are your options. You literally have to find it. You have to dig. You might come across a person that says, oh yeah, you know, if you go down there, they can help you with your housing situation. Or if you go down there, they can help you with your finances. Or you know, they're giving finance classes down. So you bump into these people that just give you random advices, but the advice is never just there for you. As a young kid, that isn't it? Obviously, if you're an adult, you have to do your research. But as a kid, I think this information have to be presented to you from the time that you're mostly in need. Let's say, for example, if a child gets kicked out of their house at 16, and they go to the housing office or whatever, the council or whatever, they should be able to give you all the information you need and everyone you need to talk to. They basically say, okay, cool, like we can't help you. You have to do this, you have to do that. But they always withhold some sort of information. Do you know what I mean? So it's hard, it's difficult, isn't it? It's difficult. I think like we need to be able to give our young people like concrete information and show them where they can get help from.
See, you know something that's kind of like going through my mind as you're explaining that is, I'm thinking there are all these challenges that we're having to face, you know, coming to school here, but yet somehow, if we don't actually sit down to reflect on it, a lot of the time it just felt like we were having fun. You know what I mean? So like, how do you lot think that we managed to do that? Because I think that's very interesting that, you know, to think that you're going through all this, but yet somehow you're having fun at the same time. How do you
think that as a child, yeah, it doesn't really faze you so much, yeah. Back then, personally, it didn't really faze me so much. Fair enough, I'm going through all of that, but then at the back of my mind, it's like, okay, but it's just one of them ones. You know what I mean? You know, it's just one of them ones. Okay, cool. Since somebody is picking on me, I'll pick on somebody else. You know what I mean? So then it's like the cycle continues. You know what I mean? You know, but looking back at it now, there are certain decisions that I took then and was like, yo, like it wasn't really. That's not the right way. You know what I mean? You know, as you say, in certain things, you could go and then seek help. I remember one day and somebody went and reported. I thought I was playing with the person in it. Yeah, but then they went and reported me in it. And I remember one of the teachers coming and like, oh, Johnson, I heard you was bullying somebody. Nigga, what? I was only bullying. You know what I mean? Because I look at myself, as I was saying, those days, yeah, back in Ghana, like, if something happened, just call one of your uncles or one of your brothers, you'll come and give the guy stuff and then everything is sorted there. But I remember that day, yeah, like I was just having fun with the person. It was one of them ones you pick on me, I pick on you, and then we tease each other and then off you go. But I never knew she was too taking it serious, you know. And then she went and reported me. But as you're saying, like, you know, sometimes somebody picks on you, you pick on somebody else, yeah, and then the cycle continues. So as long as we could always sit back and reflect, you know, on what decisions that we make, even as a child, yeah, will take you a longer way. Because certain people that we started with, yeah, because of the same situation or not, because of being in this same situation and taking the wrong decisions, took them on a different path from where we are now, you know what I mean? You know, so, you know, sometimes we gotta be able to reflect.
And just Edwin, just to add on to the thing, the question just asked. Obviously, it looks like we were having fun at that age, but personally, I think that our objectives were different. Because me growing up as a young child, my objective was more like probably having a nice trainers on my feet, you know, having a nice shoes, you know, be able to hang around with my friends, play football. So mentally wise, we wasn't really thinking that really big. So obviously that's why it probably looked like we were having fun, because obviously we weren't thinking on that big scale of getting into a proper job, you know.
How does a kid from a secondary school, like we came from as well, and the things we've gone through, how does a kid from secondary school go through all the challenges in school, but make sure they take time to reflect and act on the right decisions and make the right decisions?